Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the channel. We actually have quite a big video because Tesla investing in xAI? Wow, that could be something. And Elon Musk says that he's very much approving of that, subject to board approval. We will get into that in just a moment, how that could affect Tesla stock if that's the narrative that starts to build that Tesla may actually invest in xAI. Well, that could definitely be a positive event. Now, here in this video, we'll go over all of your other news as well. I'll give you an update to the broader market. There's a lot that we're going to react to coming tomorrow morning. Now, I can give you a little bit of a sneak peek or preview to how Wall Street is going to take some of these headlines. Example, there's a headline today from Hassett that says that Trump can fire Powell if there's a reason to. And, well, there's kind of a reason to. Powell lied to Congress. Number two, 30% tariffs on Mexico and the EU. These are things you would think would have a negative market reaction coinciding with them. But we can actually see, in fact, that Bitcoin is up today. Okay? It's 118,845 at the time of recording this video. When the tariff news did come out, Bitcoin did fall a bit, but has since recovered right back. So the risk on trade still looks to be alive and well. We'll get into all of this in this video. Hit that like button and subscribe to the channel, and let's get started. In the news today, Elon Musk's company SpaceX has agreed to invest $2 billion in his AI startup xAI in a bid to catch up in the AI race. Okay, you're already seeing companies like SpaceX with their boards approving an investment into xAI. Sawyer Merritt here shares this with the eyeball emoji because it's only a matter of time before Tesla takes a stake in xAI. Hopefully bigger than $2 billion. $2 billion is only about 1% of the company. Now, Holmar's catalog on X shared this post of SpaceX to invest $2 billion in xAI and says it would be great if Tesla could do that. Elon Musk responds to Holmar's catalog and says it would be great, but subject to board and shareholder approval. Yeah, everyone under this post says you've got my vote. Yes, 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 so on and so forth. Even Elon Musk back in July of 2024 said, should Tesla invest $5 billion into xAI, assuming the valuation is set by several credible outside investors? Board approval and shareholder votes are needed. So this is just to test the waters. And back in July, Elon says, looks like the public is in favor. We'll discuss with Tesla board. Unfortunately, it did not happen then because xAI's valuation was a lot smaller at that time. $5 billion would have been, a decently large chunk of the company. Today, $5 billion is 2.5% of the size of xAI, with its several valuation metrics coming in about $200 billion or so for the entire value of the company. It seems only evolutionary or natural at this point for Tesla to take a stake in xAI or to outright merge the company. That's what a lot of speculation has been towards in the last couple of months. And inevitably, if there is no merger between the companies, there is forever going to be a strong partnership between the two. The breakthroughs that xAI makes is good for Tesla. The breakthroughs that Tesla makes on AI is good for xAI. And there's going to be a very strong relationship between the two companies. So merger or not, it's almost like investing in Tesla. You kind of get a piece of xAI without actually getting a piece of xAI, if that makes sense. You kind of get access to the technology. And that's one of many reasons why Tesla is going to continue to excel and beat the competition in everything that Tesla does. Now, Alexander Christen on X says unpopular opinion in the US, but FSD transfer for Europe should be standard until regulatory approval is in place. The most loyal customers are the ones who bought it. I understand it's a bit of a hassle for Tesla to do it, but it's meeting each other halfway. Elon Musk said, sounds fair, because essentially if you're in Europe and you bought FSD, you can't even use it because of the regulatory process. So yeah, if you want to buy a new Tesla, it should be standard to be able to, at least for now, transfer FSD. Before we get further into this video, if you are looking to really elevate your investing, to find the biggest opportunities possible in this market and investing in them over the medium term, not 10 years, not 2 days, 6, 12, 18, 24 months, come check out the link down below in the trading community. To keep this short, sweet, straight to the point, we have the most unique service that is available out there, because what we are doing is going out and finding the next big opportunities in small caps before Wall Street catches on to them. I think of it like information arbitrage, where we kind of all have the same information about everything at any given time, unless you're insider trading or something. But sometimes the market doesn't notice right away. That has to do with investors, institutions that are unable to invest in a lot of small cap companies when they're like sub $1 billion market cap. And then if retail doesn't have a large backing of a particular stock, it kind of flies under the radar until it explodes overnight. SoundHound, BBAI, Nebius, Novartis, like IONQ, all of these companies were a small cap that was flying under the radar before it wasn't anymore. I have identified multiple companies that fit this description that are growing at hundreds or thousands of percent on a year-over-year basis, that are in huge total addressable markets, one of which is a $30 trillion industry. It's the first mover. It has no competition, it has partnerships with Google, Microsoft, Tether, but Wall Street just doesn't know about it, so it trades at bottom of the barrel valuations. That could be a 50x opportunity. Now, I provide my due diligence on all of these stocks. We stay up to date with news or changes that happen with each of these companies. Obviously, share my positions every time I buy, sell, trade any of these stocks, or short term. I am going to make a trade on Tesla, and I'm in the process of doing my in-depth, detailed due diligence on Tesla, expectations for the short term and for the long term with price targets that are attached. Yes, I do show my Tesla position as well. That should be finalized tonight, I'm hoping for. So if you guys want to check that out, try it. Link down below in the description of this video. But be warned, we're making huge gains over there. So if you're a little risk adverse, if that's not your cup of tea, then hey, it's not for you, and that's fine. But that is the sponsor of today's video. Now, back to the episode. Now, this individual, Gary and the Street, posted, it says, institutions would start dumping if Tesla invested in xAI. They don't want a huge conglomerate. They want pure plays. Just get your boy Elon to make xAI a public company. It's simple. That's, again, not true. Just the prospect of investing in xAI, I imagine it's going to have a very positive impact on the stock. Okay. This is an AI arms race. This is an AI Cold War. This is the biggest war that is non-bloody or non deadly. Okay, at least for now. Hopefully it stays that way. But there is a AI war going on out there, and companies are fiercely competing. xAI is at the top of the castle. Okay, xAI is the cream of the crop from many perspectives at this point when it comes to AI. Tesla, again, is going to have a relationship with xAI. The two companies are very much intertwined, and I expect they will be for a very long time. But getting a financial stake in the company would be great news. I mean, Tesla has like $38 billion of cash on their balance sheet. I mean, in investing $5-10 billion is not going to hurt the company's financial perspectives, especially as hopefully Tesla becomes even more profitable in the next year or 2 or 3. Deploying some cash could make a lot of sense. Now, Sawyer Merritt says, "Are you kidding? Institutional investors would love it if Tesla had a stake in xAI. Institutional investors have been buying xAI stock themselves. This includes BlackRock, who owns $64 billion worth of Tesla stock, Morgan Stanley, who owns $14 billion of Tesla stock, and Fidelity. Anyone who sees Tesla owning even a small stake in a real-world leading AI company like xAI as a negative thing clearly doesn't understand the current landscape." Again, this is an AI revolution. We are in a country, arms race between AI companies, okay? But we're also in a multi-country AI Cold War with everyone competing for the top spot. Obviously, number 1 contender is the US, number 2 contender is China. But this AI Cold War is going to fuel markets, I believe, for the next decade. The amount of innovation and products and increase the profitability and profits that you are going to see in the next 10 years is unparalleled to anything you have seen since the dawn of the internet. This is a revolution you don't want to miss out on. And I think Tesla, right at this stage, is grossly misunderstood. I imagine coming tomorrow, this is going to be seen as a great development, okay, especially since, xAI has become this leader position. It's not the same company it was even a year ago when shareholders were approving of a stake in xAI. The growing speculation around this could be very much a positive. Now, option activity on Friday, you had 189 different trades or orders totaling $207.77 million with a positive order value of 66%. Short interest, as I reported previously, has also went up, now sitting at 2.83%. You have $25 billion sold short in Tesla. That is up about $2 billion from a week ago. And the amount of shares sold short currently sits at 79.42 million, which is up about 3 million from, again, where you were about a week ago. On Friday, you had 152,000 shares that were sold short. So there is some pressure on Tesla. And honestly, I expect there's probably going to be some pressure on Tesla heading into Tesla earnings. Now, this week could be a little bit more on the positive side. We did come off of a pretty risk-off day on Friday. Again, Tesla was green for a couple different reasons, one of which is Tesla launching in the Indian market, and speculation is growing that a Model 2 cheaper Tesla is coming, because why launch in India with the Model 3 and Model Y? Like, you're only going to sell so many. We need a cheaper vehicle for those third world countries, those developing nations. Okay, so I think that's part of why Tesla was in the green. But again, I think people are just really grossly misunderstanding Tesla right now. And I think that's a very rare thing to find in such a large company like Tesla, like Nvidia, Apple, Microsoft, Meta, Netflix, even for an example. Like, we all kind of have the same understanding of those companies. Tesla, totally different universe. Part of that is because we don't know what the scalability of robotaxi is going to look like. Is it going to be a couple hundred units next year? Is it going to be a couple thousand? Is it going to be tens of thousands? That is the big catalyst coming on earnings when we get that guidance. And I do think Elon is going to give us some pretty optimistic guidance for next year, which is going to be in the thousands, not in the hundreds. And that is the real big catalyst for Tesla. But keep in mind, like, before Tesla earnings, okay, let's take it back a little bit, okay? Let's go to the April quarter of 2024. What happened the days leading into Tesla earnings? Down 5%, down 3%, down 3.5%, down 1%, down 2%, down 3.5%. Boom, earnings come out, Tesla up 12%, up 5%, up 15% in the days after. Okay, take it back to here in the July 2024 quarter, right? Tesla hit a high, a couple days before earnings at 270. sold off. By the time you got to earnings, you were at 246. So not as dramatic of a sell-off, but still sold off. And then Tesla sold off after earnings. What I'm highlighting here is Tesla typically sells off right before earnings. What about back here? Before the October 2024 quarter, Tesla was at the 270 mark, a week or two before earnings. What happened? You sold off down to the, 215 level, like sold off $55 or so. And then what happens? Tesla earnings come out, stocks up 22%. Okay. Fast forward to the January quarter. Tesla stock hit 488. A couple weeks heading into earnings, the stock was trading down in the 380s. It lost $100 per share before earnings. And then obviously, we kind of understand what happened there. Before the April earnings, last earnings, the stock hit a high of 292. Heading into earnings, it hit a low of 222. And then what happened? After earnings, stock was up 5.5%, up 3.5%, then up 10%. Okay, so the more the stock actually sells off before earnings, the better the setup looks. I know it sucks for people that don't understand this. Don't be surprised if the stock does get weird weakness heading into earnings, but that is actually correlating with a very positive post Tesla earnings. And I think this one could be quite a big reaction because of, again, we're going to get robotaxi guidance. We're going to get updates on Optimus. We're going to get, I believe, the Model 2 that is still confirmed to be coming out. And what's weird about Tesla right now is the expectations are all over the place, according to analysts. Like, I've heard expectations of 30,000 robotaxis out on the road next year by bullish analysts. I've heard numbers as low as 100 out on the road by the end of next year. Like, I would say the average hedge fund institutional investor in Tesla is expecting a couple hundred robotaxis, not in the thousands. So if we get like 10,000 projected robotaxis out on the road next year, we're going to give Tesla the benefit of the doubt because they're already deploying robotaxis and starting the process of scaling robotaxis by, for an example, reaching out to Phoenix and starting the application process to begin robotaxi services in that city. The proof of work is already happening. It has already happened. The robotaxi works. The issue will be regulation and scale, and how fast does that happen to be able to scale. And I think that's where the upside really comes from after Tesla earnings. But before, it could get a little interesting. Now, in the news today, quote, Trump certainly can fire Fed Chair Powell if there's cause, said National Economic Council Director Kevin Hassett. Okay, here's what's interesting about this, okay? Powell has done really like nothing wrong from a legal perspective until he lied about the renovation project at the Federal Reserve. Now, when people ask me, like, what do you think about Powell lying? I think it was an ignorance lie, not like I'm going to lie to Congress kind of lie. I think he actually believed what he was saying. Okay, so I think he was just ignorant to what had actually happened. But it says the Trump administration has zeroed in on the Fed's $2.5 billion renovation project for a possible cause for removing Powell. Okay, he lied in front of the Senate last month. He basically said there's been no change that to the plans, that the reporting is false. In fact, there has been changes, and the reporting is not false. Okay, it's running over budget by about $700 million. It's like $2,000 per square foot, which is astronomical. Okay. So that's the argument, that Powell could be removed because of this. There was rumors over this weekend that Jerome Powell could step down. Now, judging off of Bitcoin, because futures are not open, at least right now, Bitcoin is not stressing at all. Now, Bitcoin is seen as one of those risk-on assets. Like if there was really a problem or something bad going on, or stocks were going to sell off tomorrow in any kind of meaningful way, I'm sure Bitcoin would be selling off first. That's typically what happens. Instead, Bitcoin has been in the process of the last 12 hours or so, even just a couple of hours, hitting new all-time highs. It hit a new all-time high at $119, 518. So it looks like we could actually have a pretty risk-on day tomorrow where stocks actually do well. Now, if Powell were to be abruptly removed, that probably would not be a great thing for markets. It could create uncertainty unless we know exactly who would be replacing Powell and what their policy stance would look like. So I don't think Powell's going to be removed, but it is something we have to start talking about as Wall Street is talking about it and as there are discussions of firing Powell, because I would imagine that's not going to be a positive event for stocks. But again, I could be wrong if, depending on how it were to play out, if there wasn't as much uncertainty, perhaps it could be positive because someone else at the Fed is going to cut rates a lot more than expected, but definitely something that needed to be discussed. Now, the big news over this weekend was Trump that announced a 30% tariff on the EU and Mexico starting August 1st. Now, the EU collectively sells more to the US than any single country. It's very, the US is very important for the European economy. It says Trump said that if the EU or Mexico retaliates with higher tariffs, then whatever the number you choose to raise them by will be added onto the 30% that we charge. Okay. Now, a lot of countries in Europe, the Dutch prime minister, the German prime minister have come out and said, this is probably a negotiations tactic. We want to come to a deal by August 1st, blah, blah, blah. That's what this is. It is putting a fire under someone's ass to negotiate and to actually get a deal done. I don't think tariffs are going to stay at 30%. They're probably going to drop to 10% as a baseline with certain industries that are tariffs, certain deals that are worked out here and there, okay? But it just looks like to me these countries were not acting fast enough, and Trump wants them to act faster. Again, this sounds like a scary headline for the markets, but I think the markets are giving it the benefit of the doubt that it's a negotiations tactic, that we're actually going to get a trade deal that is not a 30% tariff because, that's not great. Bitcoin up at the prices that it is representative that the markets are not super fearful of these comments that we got over this weekend. So that looks good heading into tomorrow. NVIDIA's CEO Jensen Huang expects that the Chinese military won't use US AI chips. I mean, you would expect that to be true since theoretically you could, have a software that kind of monitors what happens through the chips. Germany's MERS says US tariffs of 30% would hit German export industry to the core. MERS says the EU unity is strong and communications with Trump are now key. Now, Warsh reiterates the Federal Reserve needs regime change. This is from the former Federal Reserve Governor Kevin Warsh on Fox News. House Senior Advisor Hassett says 50% U.S. copper tariffs are aimed at promoting U.S. production. White House Senior Advisor Hassett says that at times Brazil's actions have shocked Trump. It says if Trump thinks Brazil's actions and policies are a national security threat, he has the authority to levy tariffs under IEPA. And White House advisor Hassett was asked about the 50% tariff on Brazilian goods. Trump has been frustrated with Brazil's actions and trade negotiations. Hassett says these tariffs are real if Trump gets proposals that he doesn't think are good enough. Hassett says that Trump has seen some outlines of proposed trade deals and thinks they need to be better. And it looks like you have some drama brewing on the Korean Peninsula. North Korea warns it stands ready to take military action against threats from the US, Japan, and South Korea following recent joint air drills involving US strategic bombers. Now, in the next video, we will be going over your biggest events this week from an economic data perspective, as well as earnings, because it's going to be a jam-packed week. But again, I just want to say, don't be surprised if Tesla does start to sell off, especially towards the end of this week. Now, Tesla has already sold off quite a bit from the recent highs of 370, 360s or so. You sold off to the, 270s. Now you're back kind of up into the low 300s, around 312, 313 or so. It's almost a toss-up what happens between now and earnings. What you really want to see is a sell-off into earnings, because that almost always, like 80% of the time in the last year and a half, has led to a massive rally after earnings. So for me, it looks pretty simple. If the stock sells off, looks a lot better following earnings. And I even think there's a bit of an options trade that could come about as well. If you guys want to see all of the trades that I make, all of these small caps that we are investing in, the companies I believe will turn into large companies that could be 10, 20, 30, 40, 50x opportunities, check out that link down below in the description of this video. I invest in these companies. I share my positioning. I share all of the due diligence that is associated with them as well. Hit that like button and subscribe to the channel. Last but not least, have a great rest of your day, and I will see you in the next one.